talking about why I wrote this book about parents who cheat. Because so many books have been reading about divorce and the effects of divorce on children, and so many books have been reading about infidelity and relationships. But we have ignored the impact of infidelity on the children. Many parents think this is not the children's business. This is something that the children should not be involved. This is just about the relationship. And that's not really quite the case. We do know, and we do know from, especially from patients as adults already, or children that are patients, that when parents, mom, dad, or both are unfaithful, it has a significant impact in themselves as children or once they become adults. An impact in their ability to trust, impact in their ability to form new relationships. Even in this society where we see, when we go to the market and we see all those magazines, and we just look at them at the front of the cover of the magazine and to see who has been cheated this time or who is the cheater. It's everywhere around. When we go and see movies, cheating is in almost every movie. Cheating is almost in every TV show. It sounds almost like we have normalized it. However, when we ask in our own families what happened when somebody has cheated or when it's something like that, we do have a crisis in our families. It's very interesting that there was a research done by the Pew Research Center and asked what is the main thing that somebody asks in a relationship. And the first one is about the capacity to be faithful. 93% of the respondents said the capacity to be faithful in my partner. That's what I'm looking for. It's even rated higher than the sexual chemistry, even higher than religion, even higher than do you want to have children or not. Faithfulness, loyalty, those are really values in our society. So regardless of what we see on media, we are still on that terms that infidelity is something that really can jeopardize our relationships. And when we talk about infidelity, we talk about trust, we talk about loyalty, we can think about any kind of relationships. If we are in a business relationship, we need to trust our partner. So in any kind of relationships, business, family, couples, we do need to develop that trust in order to have a relationship. So when that trust is broken, we do have severe consequences. For a child, mom and dad are the idols. They are the best in the world. They are models, role models. They are, who they can trust. However, when parents teach their children how the world is, and they teach, this is right, this is wrong, this is what we expect from you, we expect that you would not lie. So when that child finds out that mom or dad or both are cheating on each other, then what are they understanding? There is nothing in the middle. It's right or wrong. This yes or no. So they get very confused. If my parents are telling me that I should say the truth, but they lie, so what is it that I'm expected to be? Should I also lie, or occasional liar is all right, or what is it that they expect from me? What is it that they are teaching me as a child? And then when they see that mom and dad, that they thought the world of them, that they thought they were the best, right? And then they see that mom or dad is hurting because mom or dad, the other partner, was cheating. How could be that, in the case dad was the cheater, how could be that I can love my dad when he hurt my mom so much, or the opposite, right? So based on this, and based on many patients that ask me, what is the impact on my children and what should I do, I started to look for reading material. I found nothing about this issue. And that's why I decided to write my book, Parents Who Cheat, and How Infidelity Affects the Child and the Adult Children. So I did a research. It's not a scientific research, it's not a statistical research, it's a survey. In this survey, I send it online because now we have this capacity of doing everything online. So I use the same method of going online and asking people through a survey what have been their experiences. And this is what I'm going to show you this morning. This is what I'm going to show you what I did, so you can have an idea of what I found out. I was interested in the subject. I didn't expect the results that I got, so that's what I'm sharing with you, the results that I got, which are quite amazing. At least they were for me. I did this book, I completed this book about 2 years ago. So my survey continues going because it's online. So now I have about double of the data that I had at that time, but the new data is still confirming the same pattern. There is very little difference from what you're going to see now. I did it in English. As you can see, I have an accent. I'm Spanish speaking. So I'm now doing it in Spanish. I don't have that ready. I don't have the data ready, but I will compare at some point English speaking with Spanish speaking. So that will be interesting to see, and to see different cultures and how they react to the issues of infidelity. But I have to say that this is something that goes everywhere, that happens everywhere. So let's look a little bit into the research. From the people that answered into my survey, most of them were women, of course. We know that that would be the case, that more women was going to answer to my survey. And well, usually women are more into answering, and I didn't expect something very much different. But in my mind, when I saw so many women, I said, well, maybe it's because more dads than moms are cheaters. So, well, I started to have my own conclusions about that, thinking about what could that be. But let's see what happened. This responds to the question of how old were you when you, no, this is about the population that answered. Most of the people that answered 31 to 40 years old, middle age, right? I didn't expect teenagers to answer me, but some were very inclined to answer. Just in case if you can see really well, orange are a tone of the respondents, pink is female, and blue is male. And most of them were from the United States. So there is very little people answering from other parts of the world. As I don't have control, it's online, it goes everywhere. My intention was to do it in the US, but I got other respondents. But the other responses were not that many. So interesting, it went even to Europe, Canada, everywhere. Now, this is when I started to say, what? I didn't expect this. I did expect this difference between dads, more dads than moms cheating. Probably you expected that too. But I didn't expect that both parents were cheaters. That's something that at least I didn't think about it when I started my research. Maybe I'm naive, maybe, but no, this means that there were a lot of people that were able to tell me that both parents were cheating. This is how they were when the actual cheating happened, or when they found out that the actual cheating happened. And I think that this is very significant because we think that children, children when they are very young, they don't know. Well, look at this. 5 or younger, they knew that mom or dad were cheating. So when we think that, children don't know, it's something to really ask ourselves. 6 to 10 years old, a lot of parents say, my child is in school, he's he's too busy doing homework or doing his own life. They don't know. Well, they do know. They do know. And then we have all the teenagers that apparently that's an age where they were hit by the news. Sorry. I have to say, also make a note that when I'm talking about cheating, I'm talking that when the children found out of the parents cheating. Of course, there are many instances when children do not know. Still, talking to the people that responded, a lot of people said, my parents thought I did not know about it, but I knew it. I knew that was happening. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to create more grief. I didn't want to create more animosity or things like that. So a lot of children did know even when the parents thought that they didn't know. But here is reflected from the children or adult children that were responding to my survey. So all of these ones didn't know. The intention of the survey is not to go and to conduct any kind of interviews or surveys or research into infidelity and when children do not know about it, because it's a mood issue, right? This is about how it affects children once they realize that something is happening. Okay. Did your parents get divorced as a consequence of the infidelity? Well, I didn't expect this answer. I expected that most of them probably would end up in divorce. However, most of them did not get into divorce. And actually the new numbers are a little bit higher for no. So a little bit, not much. So we can conclude then that when a child is in the family relationship where the parents are cheating, in every case they will end up in divorce. If that's good or it's not good, we will see later on, because there are emotional consequences for one or the other. Were you ashamed or embarrassed to talk about your parents' infidelity with your friends or other people? Most of them say yes. And this is important because at the time that a child or a teenager finds out that mom or dad or both, now we know that both have been unfaithful, they don't have anyone to go to. They actually have no resources. And that's when social workers or psychologists or therapists get really involved, because this child or this teenager has no one. Even when we think, yeah, they might have a support system, this is the scenario. This is what happens. When they go to their friends, the friends at the beginning, they are very supportive. They say, oh, well, yeah, those things happen. And then soon after, the gossiping starts going around and they start talking about. And then there are a group of people gossiping. You know that? Did you know? And then they start judging, because teenagers or children need to come with some kind of conclusions on some reasoning, on rationale. Why did this happen? And the conclusions that these kids bring are really not the best for the best interest of the child. Usually the conclusions are, yeah, but did you see how fat your mom is? Oh yes, but did you know how your dad is so selfish? Or did you see how the lover must be very, very exciting? Or they place judgment. So at some point then this child starts to isolate and withdraw from the situation because doesn't need a judgment, and then has nobody in the family to go with this. Nobody in the family, why? Suppose that the situation is that dad was a cheater and mom was the victim, between quotations, right? They betrayed. They cannot go to dad because they may feel that dad is not in the best premises to support her emotionally or support him emotionally, because dad is having these issues. So, and this child will have so much animosity against dad that probably would not be the best person. Now, going to the betrayed person, if mom is the betrayed person, suppose that's the scenario again, because it can go both ways. If mom is the betrayed person, they cannot go with all their grief to mom, because it's like giving more grief to mom when she is already in so much emotional pain. And maybe mom will be saying bad things, wrong things about dad, that maybe is true or maybe it's not true, but maybe this child is not what she needs to have at that time or he needs to have at that time. So they would not go to the parents. Now, we have an extensive family, maybe, extended family. Well, uncles and grandparents and aunts and others, cousins may be good and maybe not be that good, because they will say, oh, don't worry, honey, everything is going to be all right. You will see that everything is going to be all right. Your dad is a good person, your mom is so nice, or whatever they will say, just to create some peace, to calm down the situation. And this child, the next day or even the same day, will hear the gossiping on the phone or on the internet or in an email or something, saying, well, he did this to her, or she did this to him, and blah, 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 all the judgments, all the criticism about the situation that happened. So the child knows very well, that families are going to be judgmental in his or her side or both sides. This child ends up with nobody to talk to. So that's why the important role of the clinician dealing with these aspects of the family dynamics. Did your relationship with the unfaithful parent change? Well, of course, in most of them. Some, say they did not. And that was very interesting. That some they did not. I didn't expect that. So it's not that in all of the relationships, things go in the drama way, but most of them, yes. And we will see later how and why. Did your relationship to the betrayed parent change? Well, I didn't expect this one. But yes, it did change. Look, almost in all of the cases, but not so much for males, but more for females. It changed because children become very critical of the betrayed parent too. And the issues that I found, because I don't know if I said that before, I interviewed people that responded to my survey. There's a section that says, if you are willing to be interviewed, let me write here your email address or your phone number. So I did interview these people. And the reasons why a lot of people are upset at the betrayed parent is because they think that they should have been a better spouse, or they should have been able to avoid it, or they should have been able to be smarter to, trying to control the situation so this wouldn't be happening, or mom should have been paying more attention to that, or dad should be more kind with mom, or whatever the reason is, but there is judgment placed on the betrayed parent too, in most of the cases. Were you angry with or hurt by your parent for being unfaithful? And this is where we're starting to see that, most of the children were angry. Were angry or hurt. They were angry or hurt because most of the children feel that they have been betrayed themselves. And they have been betrayed themselves not just by identifying with mom or dad or the betrayed parent or parents, but they feel they have been hurt and they're angry because the dynamics of this family or the ideal of the family that they have, whatever they have in their hands up to this point, however their life has been, now it's not the same. It has changed. And it has changed without their permission, right? The child didn't want that change. Most of the children want to be home in a family where there is good relationships, there's loving, tender care. Well, that has been disrupted now. And they are angry, of course. They are angry and they feel hurt. If you were angry with or hurt by your parent for being unfaithful, were you eventually able to forgive him or her? Well, in most of the cases, they were able to forgive. However, here, the word forgiveness, it's something that we should look very closely, because forgiveness, what is it? Is it to say, it's okay? No. In most of the cases, they did not say it's okay. In most of the cases, they say, okay, that happened. I have to continue with my own things. And that thing about continue with my own life, it has its own issues that we will see later. So the word forgiving is kind of flexible. We have to take a better look into what forgiving really means for each one, because it can have different meanings. Accepting, not really. Forgiving and letting go and continuing probably is the most accurate way of saying forgiving. Forgiving is not really accepting. So, but it has not been defined in the survey, but I was able to go back and ask questions. And again, as the word forgiving is so broad, so look at they cannot answer. They could not answer because, do I really forgive? Can I really forgive when I had this idea of what my family was, how loving or whatever the child has in his or her own image of what family is and has been changed? Can I, because it's not just forgiving the parent, it's dealing with the disruption or with the distress of the family. Can I really forgive so much pain in my life created by whatever, right? So that's why the word forgiveness is it's a very delicate word. Do you feel betrayed by your parents' infidelity? Well, And here, children do feel betrayed. Children feel betrayed because in most of the cases when they are children or they are adolescent, the world goes around them and they feel that they may have done maybe something wrong themselves for mom to go and cheat or for dad to go and cheat, not knowing that has nothing to do with them. The decisions that mom or dad did has nothing to do with them. But they may still feel that, it did. That, I behaved so badly that dad got upset and he went to find someone better, someone to have a better time, or mom was so upset at me that mom got tired and she needed someone else to love her, whatever the explanations might be. So they feel that they may have something to do with the infidelity relationship, and they feel betrayed by the parents who have become unfaithful. So the betrayal is also by identification of the child with the parent, and we will see later by gender how this goes, but children do feel betrayed as the parents feel betrayed. Was your attitude toward love and relationships affected by your parents' infidelity? Well, I expected this one. I did expect more females than males saying, more females than males saying yes, that they were affected, and it's reflected here, right? That more males say no, they didn't affect it. And I still have questions about that because they may say no, but they maybe know that aware of how these issues of the family dynamics affect you. And we know as clinicians that what we see in our parents and our role models, it does affect the way that we relate to others, especially in intimate relationships. But this is what people say, most of them say yes, and that they have been affected in the way that they relate to others in loving relationships or intimate relationships. And this is how it has been affected in the romantic relationships themselves, which is similar to the previous slide. Now, here we go into something very, very important. As I told you, the research showed that 93% of people thought that faithfulness, loyalty was very important. And here I ask you, do you believe in commitment, right? So these are children of parents who have been cheating. And they say, yeah, I do believe in commitment. About 90% said, yes, I think commitment is important. So keep this in mind. 90% think that commitment is important in a relationship, right? And this is almost even for men and women. Do you believe in monogamy? Oh yes, also almost 90% do still believe in monogamy. They saw mom or dad or both of them cheating and they still believe in monogamy. Almost even, a little bit less for men, but almost even. They do believe in monogamy. That should be the way in a relationship. And now look at this one. Have you ever been unfaithful yourself? Most of them no. But look at the percentage. 45% of children of infidelity, even when they said, yes, I believe in monogamy, yes, I believe in commitment, they have been 45, almost 1 in 2, have been unfaithful themselves. This one strikes me. Does this mean that every child that has been in a family relationship where infidelity happened will be unfaithful or not loyal, disloyal? Well, no, evidently no, that doesn't mean that. Well, at least half will not. Now, I was very, very curious about this answer. Very curious. 45% of the children have been unfaithful themselves. So I went in to ask questions. I called people and said, what happened? And what happened is that these are the answers, which are very, very interesting. They said things like, well, I didn't believe in love anymore. I didn't believe in commitment anymore at that time when I started to date. So I said, well, if my dad or my mom, did this, there's no value in being faithful or loyal. So I tried different things, and when I was involved in relationships, I did cheat. I didn't know that it could be related to what I saw at home at that time. But as time went by, most of them said that they realized that having affairs was not the solution to having a happy life, right? They were in search for their own answers. And I think that it's very evident that through having affairs, they were looking for answers to their own issues about what they saw at home. Many of the people that answered have therapy themselves, which makes sense. You know, you answer to a survey when you are inclined to answer to a survey. A lot of people probably qualified to answer to the survey but did not and prefer not to answer. So these people that did answer, well, maybe they went to therapy and they work with these issues. That's why they were answering. So most of them said then that they did have extramarital affairs, or they were unfaithful in maybe in other kind of relationships, more casual, not necessarily marriage, trying to look for answers until they realized that that was not the way, until they realized that this was the impact of what they learned from their own parents, looking for their own answers. And then we will see the difference in men and in women and how they acted differently. But I think this is very interesting. Probably one of the most interesting results I observed in my survey. Do you believe that cheating is okay as long as your partner doesn't find out? Well, most of them say no, of course. But that's actually what happens when cheating happens, right? When someone is unfaithful, when he's unfaithful or she's unfaithful, what they have in their mind is, well, but she will never find out, or he will never find out. I will be able to handle this in a way that I'm going to be so smart that he or she will not find out. Not knowing that keeping a secret within a relationship, it already alters, it already changes the relationship. When one or the other have a secret, when you have a secret with an intimate partner, you start having some kind of a distance or emotional distance because you have a secret. So you have to keep your secret. You have to keep that issue distance from the relationship, so you start separating emotionally from the other person. So secrets are already there, and secrets are already hurting the intimacy of any kind of a relationship. So saying that it will not, my wife or my husband will not know about this because I will keep it as a secret, well, it's fooling themselves. And then when we see that cheating is not okay, when you're, in their opinion, as long as your partner doesn't find, as the partner doesn't find out, is sometimes the way of how we cheat ourselves when we do something. So when we tell ourselves some things, you know, I think that the cheating starts with ourselves, when we lie to ourselves. Do you believe that people regularly lie? Well, yes, maybe. No? Yeah, in general, it's an attitude that people regularly lie, but for different reasons. Do you believe that you should not open yourself emotionally in order to prevent the pain of being betrayed? Well, most of the people were saying no to this, but when you feel that mom or dad, or this is what I found out, that mom or dad has cheated, it creates often guardedness. You become guarded. You try to protect yourself. You create a shield of protection, of emotional protection, so people won't hurt you. If you saw that mom hurt dad or dad hurt mom emotionally, that can happen then to anyone. If mom or dad, which are the best in the world, hurt each other, people hurt each other. So you grow up with a feeling that people in the world hurt each other, and in some ways it's true, right? So, but it's a question of a balance, right? So how much do you protect yourself from relationships? If you see that in mom and dad, then you have to protect yourself overall, and that's it. You believe that you have to be protected from others. When you are educated, when you grow in a family and loving relationship with trust, you can really trust, then you learn that you can trust some people and you have to take care of others in more of a healthy way. Boundaries are healthier. But when mom and dad, or both, or one or the other, did not go that way, then you are much more guarded with the world in general, because it's the whole world that can be doing some kind of hurtful things to you, harm you. Are you concerned about being betrayed by your significant other? Yeah, if mom cheated or dad cheated, of course you're going to be concerned about your significant other, because that can happen to you too, right? So it does create from the other slide that we just saw about being concerned about being betrayed by other people in general. Of course, it's going to be much more within the relationship that your partner can cheat on you. Did your parents' infidelity affect your ability to trust others? And this is the result now, going from the general to the relationship to your ability to trust others. Do you believe that your ability to relate to your partner would have been different if your parents have not cheated? Yeah, my life would have been very different if that would never have happened. The main issue of parents' infidelity is trust, and this is very, very significant. And trust goes in every kind of relationship. Trust goes about trusting yourself too. So a child has difficulty to trust themselves too. So the issue of trust is something that is learned at home with your parents, and it belongs to the child development, to the milestones development. So it's important for the child. So this has been very honest answer about the ability to trust. So now we're going to see about gender, differences in gender. So this is broken down in gender, and this part is not actually in my book. This is further analysis that I done because it's really interesting to see how females and males, women and men, how we react differently, or how we may react the same. So let's look at males whose father has cheated, males. And I took only the more interesting ones. I didn't go through all of them, so I just took the more interesting ones. Were you angry with or hurt by your parent for being unfaithful? And most of them were. And here, this was interesting to me because many times guys would say, well, you know, it's a man's world, you know what men do, you know, and they are more, they're softer with that, right? So I expected they probably will be maybe half and half, someone will be more condescending with that, but no. Sons were hurt also by when dad was the one that cheated. So this was very significant to me. Was your attitude toward love and relationship affected by your parents' infidelity? And also they were affected. So males responding to my survey also acknowledge that they have been hurt by dad when he cheated, or by dad when he cheated, and how did it affect their intimate relationships. But they said they were not that concerned about her cheating on him. Yeah, because we're talking now about dad cheating. So they saw dad cheating, so they are mainly concerned about, they are not that much concerned of that in this relationship she will be cheating, but because it looks like almost like a contradiction, that they are concerned that they will be cheated on, but they are not concerned that they will be cheating in the relationship. So there's kind of a contradiction. So when I asked, I said, yeah, because I look for the perfect woman that would not cheat on me. So it was a main issue for me. I was very concerned, very preoccupied with the idea of cheating, being unfaithful. So I really looked for a partner, a woman that would not be a cheater. So it was a main concern. So once they find that woman, they can trust her much more. But it's something that is still in their mind. Now, males whose mom has cheated. Angry, very, very angry at mom. Very angry at mom. Betrayed by your parents' infidelity, oh yeah, they feel very betrayed too. The attitude toward love and relationship affected? Yes, it has affected them too. So, in terms of that, we can conclude that males, at least males that responded to my survey, felt very betrayed themselves, very hurt themselves, even when mom or dad were the cheaters. I expected that they were more concerned when mom was a cheater than when dad was a cheater, but actually, regardless, mom or dad, regardless, they were very hurt and very betrayed. They felt very, very betrayed when that happened. Now, let's go for females. There we can see more of a difference, right? Okay. Very angry or hurt when parents were unfaithful. Much more than males, at least in the way that they responded. Keep in mind that women, we are more expressive in our emotions than usually men are. So this is the way that we responded. So keep that in mind, right? But yeah. Did you feel betrayed by your parents' infidelity? Yes, much more. If you remember the previous one, much more than men. Was your attitude toward love and relationship affected by your parents' infidelity? Yes. Are you concerned about being betrayed by your significant other? Yes, but it's almost the same like with males. Remember the one that with males? And the answer is the same. Yeah, I'm very concerned, but I'm going to look for a man that can be faithful. In terms of that, for example, in the book there are several interviews that I put them in the book, and you can see that females are extremely concerned about that in many ways more than men, because women feel that choosing a partner, it's very important not just for herself but for her children. If we know in the society that when a divorce happens or we have single mothers, more women than men are in charge of their children. So if we think in evolutionary terms or in biology terms, more women are with children, therefore she has to be very much concerned about what kind of a partner she chooses. And many of them who have been in families where dad was unfaithful, yeah, most of them stay together, but some divorce. And with the divorce doesn't mean that dad disappears from the picture, but in some cases they do disappear from the picture, right? And children are being raised only by mom. So women are more now in terms of being very careful of who she finds as a partner, or who she chooses as a partner. So all of these issues are in consideration when we talk about if you are concerned about being betrayed by your significant other. Yes, you are concerned, and some are not that concerned because they are very, very, very picky about who they are going to choose. In fact, one of the, now comes to my memory, one of the interviewees of my book, she got married at age 40 something. No, it's more than one person. Many women got married very much late in their lives, again, because of the concerns of infidelity, that they did not believe in marriage, they did not believe in men, and they preferred to stay single until much later on they found someone that could be a good match for them. So I think it's in the first interview in my book. There's this woman who she's very, very, very smart, and she's very prominent in her line of business, and very, very well respected, and she's one of those that got married very, very late. Her story is that she comes from a very traditional family, and one day they were at dinner and they were supposed not to talk at the time of dinner, or just respectful of their place as children. They were children. And one day dad, sitting down in the table, said, "Tomorrow I'm going to bring your sister to the house. It's a sister that you don't know, and she's going to come and live with us. I expect that you treat her as your sister." That's the end. Next day comes a girl of their same age and joining the family because daddy said so. And this was from another relationship that this dad had. And they have to share the room with this girl, and they have to include them in the family. So that was very traumatic. So extremely traumatic. And of course, mom and dad had talked about this, but it was news to the children. So it was very hard for all of them to eat this one, to digest this one. So this is the woman that took many, many years to develop a new relationship. Even so, when she did develop this relationship with this man that she married, she decided that she was not going to have kids. And her relationship is like that. It's almost like roommates, you know, that they get along very well. She has her life, he has her life, and they get together, you know, they share the apartment, they share their sexuality, they share their everything that they have to share, but, you know, emotionally distant. So even today, in her 40s, she is not able to have a very intimate relationship with him, with openness and trust, because of all of those issues. So this man that thought that he was doing so good, because children don't know, well, we do know how parents' decisions affect the children. So females whose mom have cheated. And I don't know what you expect to see here, but this is what it is. Very angry, very angry. Oh my God, this is what my mom did? Oh my God, no? Like, if mom is, and children are very judgmental. So they can be very judgmental of dad. Look at what my dad did, but if mom did it, what is my mom a whore? What is she? You know, they go into extremes. They are not capable to understand the dynamics. So judging mom is very, very, very hard. Sometimes even harder because of society and what we expect of men and women. They might be even harder on mom than on dad. And if it's a girl, if mom is doing this, well then, what am I? Especially if it's a teenager. What about my own sexuality? What I'm going to be doing then in life? Did you feel betrayed by, well, this will be by mom's infidelity? Very, very betrayed. And I think it hits the girls in really a very difficult spot about their own sexuality. Was your attitude toward love and relationship affected by your parents' infidelity? Yes. Are you concerned about being betrayed? Even when mom is the one that betrayed. Still, they're concerned, because if my mom can do that, then, you know, everybody's doing it. I think that with girls, which ones they were more expressive when I interview them, they have major concerns about relationships, but there's one thing that I found out that they said in several cases, and they said this about dad being the cheater, for example. They said, I saw my dad cheating, and therefore I question myself, well, do I want to be like my mom and cry and be depressed, or do I want to be like the lover who had fun with my dad? Well, it's more appealing to be like the lover. So then they get involved in extramarital affairs with men that are married men. That has been very prevalent in many of the interviewees, which is very, very interesting. Then when this girl, when mom was the cheater, then they say, well, my mom cheated. If they accept that mom was the cheater, accept that that's okay, then they kind of feel okay in doing something similar. But if they are judgmental against their mother, then they are usually very structured, and they become more religious. They need more. They become more judgmental, more critical, and more rigid in many ways. So it has an impact, an incredible impact in them too. Now, male versus female responses with significant differences when mother, father, or both parents cheated. Did your parents get divorced as a consequence of infidelity? Well, we already looked into that about more of the parents did not get divorced than they did. Were you ashamed or embarrassed to talk about your parents' infidelity with your friends or others? These are the female respondents, and that's the male respondents, and this is when mom was the cheater, when dad was the cheater, or when both were the cheaters. Mom, dad, or both. So in females, they felt much more ashamed when mom was the cheater. I thought that it would be more the same when males, that when mom was the cheater, they were more ashamed. But no, they were more ashamed when dad was the cheater. That sounded interesting. But look at when both were the cheaters. Interesting. Was your attitude toward love and relationship affected by your parents' infidelity? When this is a female respondent, well, more when dad was a cheater. But not that much of a difference, right? But more when dad was the cheater. Have your romantic relationship been affected by your parents' infidelity? Well, females and males. For females, it was more affected when dad was, and for males, when mom was the one. That's kind of common sense, right? Because that's what you would expect, that more girls will say, yeah, but I understand my mom, you know, she cheated because my dad didn't pay a lot of attention to her. It's my dad's fault. Again, you know, trying to justify. Or males saying, well, yeah, but you know how men are, you know, it was just something that happened maybe, or maybe blaming the lover, you know, it's not my dad's really responsibility, it's this woman that got in the middle and she doesn't let him go, you know, something like that. Did you believe that you should not open yourself emotionally in order to prevent the pain of being betrayed? And in female response, yes, even in mom, dad, or both. But in males, it was much more affected when both parents were the cheaters, that they feel now, you know, if both of my parents are cheaters, you know, we are in the world by ourselves. We're not supposed to be sharing our intimate life or our secrets or our thoughts with anybody, which has been harder, right? Take emotional distance. Are you concerned about being betrayed by your significant other? Females, more concerned, were male, and this is what we expected, right? And males were females in comparing. Did your parents' infidelity affect your ability to trust others? For males, more when dad was a cheater, and for males, were more than mom was the cheater. But again, when both of them were cheaters, that's where the trust issues really come along harder. So all of this here is in my book on parents who cheat and how infidelity affects the children. So it's important to discuss that when something like this happens, it will hurt, it will affect the children, no matter if they are children, if they are teenagers, or if they are adults. It will have some kind of a significant impact in the children. And the emotional reactions when the children find out. Usually the emotional reactions might be anger, anxiety, guilt, shame, sadness, confusion. And in children, behaviorally, we can see that they have different kind of reactions, like acting out, regression, withdraw, feel pressure to win back the love of the cheating parent, become the caretaker of the betrayed parent. So this is usually the scenario. The children react being angry, starting to act out, became angry at school, may become bullies at school, may start acting out with the opposite sex, like, you know, hurting girls or hating them, or hating boys, or not wanting to be with boys or girls, you know, issues with the other gender. And at home, the child more than likely will identify with the betrayed parent and will start feeling with the betrayed parent against the betrayer. But at the same time, the love and hate relationship starts to develop. And what happens is that, for example, I love my dad, but I hate him because of what he did. So how can I love and hate at the same time? It's very hard for a child. So usually you pick one. You love him or you hate him, because love and hate is very confusing. How can I love and hate? The difference of I love him but I hate what he did, which will be a boundaries issue over there, it's very hard for the child to put it together. Everything is black and white in general terms. So many children then feel that they love that parent, they judge that parent, they hate that parent, and they are here in the bind. What do I do? If I tell my dad or my mom that I hate her or I hate him because of what he or she did, let's say he, for just so I don't have to say he or she, but it's one or the other, right? If I tell my dad that I hate him for what he did, I may lose him forever. He will not want to come and talk to me anymore. So I can't tell my dad that. So what do I say? Do I say it's okay? But it's not okay. So what do? I play it. Usually most of the children play it like nothing happened, because they are very afraid of losing the parent. And that is interpreted by the parent like, it's okay, I didn't hurt him or her, you see, nothing happened, they're okay. And that continues with a like if life, which is not real, because in the reality, as time goes by, this child who has nobody to talk to, as I said before, keeps holding inside of him or her these terrible feelings about being betrayed, that has nobody to talk to, and keeps piling up, and then acts out as they become adolescents or adults. Very difficult for a child, because how can they put themselves together, everything that is happening in their own mind? It's very hard unless they have someone that can help them through the process. So that's why they act out or they regress, because it was much better when you were younger and nothing of this was happening. I wish I could be when I was younger, so everything was more heavenly, seven heaven, remember? More of seven heaven, that series of TV. So then we have a regression, like what depends on what is the age of the child, right? Withdraw, because they have nobody to trust, discussed before. They feel pressure to win back the love of the cheating parent. So sometimes they feel, this is what happened in many cases, this is with patients I had. For example, this girl felt that mom did not do a good job with my dad, because dad is really nice person. So as my mom wasn't able to keep my dad, then it's my role to do that. So they will become pleasers, overly loving to the cheating parent, trying to keep him back into the family. And of course, what is the interpretation of everybody around that, right? That will feel, oh yeah, my daughter loves me, there's no problem, everything is great. And the betrayed person, the mom in this case, she would feel betrayed by her daughter too, because she is trying to make a good relation. She loves her father more than me when he was a cheater, so not understanding what is going on behind it. And in many cases, unfortunately, the children become the caretaker of the betrayed parents. And this has been in many of the stories that are in my book, because, for example, stay with the same scenario, that I was the cheater and mom was the betrayed person, and she's hurting, she's depressed, she now is crying all the time, she doesn't go to work, she's at home or whatever. So this child tries to protect mom, don't worry, everything will be fine, you have us, your children, we love you, we're here with you, and soon after they become the caretakers. In many cases, as in my book, it goes sometimes into extremes. For example, there was a family where they stayed together, mom and dad stayed together, but she didn't move out of the house as an adult, because she felt that as soon as she would move out of the house, then he will go and cheat again. So she had to stay in the house to control Dad, so he would not be a cheater, and that she will keep the relationship going on. So she found someone that she wanted to form a relationship. Then she did marry, but she married next door, so she could continue watching Dad. So what a burden on the children. What a burden. As adults, they might have a hard time for intimate relationships, trust, and commitment. And we discussed that already. So the loss of trust is, as I said before, is the main issue. And children, when they see that infidelity is happening, they question themselves what love is. What is love? Is something created by media? Is something that is not real? It's something that we talk about love, but it's just excitement and then it's gone. So do we play the love thing and we make it believe? We do say loving things when we don't really feel like? Or if we feel love, well, it must not be love, it must be something else. And let's move on with somebody else because I don't really want to feel love. It's too scary to feel love. And love doesn't really exist. That's kind of in the mind of many. Shame is a huge issue. Yes?
Can I just back up and ask, with that loss of trust, do you find that applies beyond their romantic relationships?
Yeah. The issue of trust.
Workplace or beyond?
The issue of trust is the core of any kind of relationship. At work.
Ask me to repeat the question.
Okay.
I was wondering about the issue of loss of trust and whether or not that has application outside of just romantic relationships and maybe into the workplace or other relationships.
Yes. And the answer is that trust is the main issue in any kind of relationships. It's the basic core of any kind of a relationship. Without trust, we cannot survive. When we are babies, we need to trust, so we can survive. So it applies to being at working relationships, friendships, family, love relationships, any kind of relationships. People become very distrustful of others when they learn in early ages that they cannot trust mom or dad or both. And the issue of shame, even when I mentioned before that there's a lot of shame because they think that maybe they did something for mom or dad to cheat. It's their own responsibility. Or they may feel that women, when they feel that it's not their own responsibility, but it's something that dad did or mom did, it's something that has tinted the whole family. My dad now is a cheater. My mom is a cheater. There are issues of shame on them, on the whole family. The whole family goes through the process. So that's why also many of the children start to withdraw because of the shame. And even more when they keep the secret. So this about keeping the secret is very, very important. Many of the cases, the children find out about mom or dad cheating without the parents noticing. They overheard the conversation on the cellular, or they may have go into the computer. I've seen some emails over there that gave them the clue that something was going on. They may keep themselves the secret and not say anything. When they keep themselves a secret, they feel very ashamed too because they start to be part of the whole thing of infidelity. When a child knows something and nothing is being said, the child feels, I am now part of the whole cheating process, because if my dad was cheating, I know I have a secret and I don't say something, I am cheating on my mom because I know something that I'm not telling my mom. Now, if I go and decided to tell my mom about the cheating, then I'm betraying my dad because I'm revealing a secret that my mom wasn't supposed to know. So secrecy are binding the children into very difficult times. They don't know what to do with that. Keeping the secret is bad. telling the secret is bad. There is no way out when there's a secret involved. Now, this is much even worse when parents are telling the child, keep the secret with me. So suppose that the child saw dad in the coffee shop holding hands with somebody else or something like that, right? Now the father goes and tells the child, don't tell your mom about this, okay? This is our secret. This is for you and me only to know. Well, that's even worse because now she or he has been told to keep the secret. So now actively this child is betraying the other parent. So they become part of the triangle now of infidelity, which now is not a triangle, it's a square or rectangular. So then they feel very ashamed, and they start keeping themselves emotionally distant from the betrayed parent because they are holding a secret too. And then, for example, I have a case of this girl. She was a teenager, and she was in treatment because of her emotional problems. And when she came, she had emotional problems at school, wasn't doing really well. So both parents bring them to session. And then she reveals in session that she went to mom's computer, and mom was writing to a guy and talking to this guy in loving terms. Then she comes again and she says, my mom is going up north to visit her sister. And that's what my dad thinks. But she's actually not visiting her sister. She's seeing this guy because I saw it in the computer. So she kept looking into the computer and finding out what was happening. So it came to a point that she told dad. And the reaction was that they separated and mom moved out north and left the children. There were 3 children with dad. So she was the oldest of the 3, and her role now was to take care of the youngest children because dad had to work even more hours to support the children. So now this is what happened to her. No mom, very angry at mom, extremely angry at mom, not just for having an affair, but for living with her lover and leaving the family. Angry at dad because he is not taking care of her siblings, and for her to take care of her siblings, like if she would be the mom, she was 13 at that time, she was angry at everybody. And her structure was so weak that soon she developed psychotic features. And then I think she developed into the bipolar disorder, but she was really, really, really bad, doing really, really bad, not coping with this thing at all, and feeling very, very guilty for revealing the secret. But she was in a bind. There was no other way that she could handle the situation. It was not up to her. But the parents handled it very badly too, especially the mom. Confusion, when marriage includes infidelity, children often draw the conclusion that marriage is a sham and love is an illusion. And when parents stay married, even when one or both parents continues having affairs, the effect on children is profound confusion about the meaning of both love and marriage. This is the situation when they divorce. Let's see, do I have that here? No. Okay. This is interesting about divorce. When parents stay together, usually it's the better scenario for the children, only if parents are able to solve the differences, and when there is some kind of an explanation according to the age, and when there is a commitment to renew the vows or for children to really see that parents are working together to have this relationship ongoing. So if they see the efforts, they are able to continue and they are able to trust again, because they see what is happening. They are in the middle of the action. They can see that they are making efforts, and that one or the other or both are doing all efforts necessary to keep going. The worst scenario is when they do not divorce, they stay together, but they keep cheating. So that's when it's confusing. That's when marriage is a sham. Then nothing is real. Everything is fake. Now, the issue of separating or divorcing is good for children also. And it's good in terms that they see, okay, this happened, and as a consequence of this happening, this other thing is happening now. So there's a consequence to a behavior. That's easier to understand and easier to accept, and then it depends on one or the other of the parents on how they will keep the relationship with the children, on how things are going to be for this child in the future. And that's the same issues as divorce, children of divorce. You know, it depends on the parents and how the relationship continue with their children and how the outcome of all of this is going to be. But the worst thing, again, is staying together and the same thing happening. So for those women or men that say, in honor of my children, or thinking about my children, or for the welfare of my children, or for the best of my children, I'm going to stay in the relationship even when my wife cheats or even when my husband cheats, is the worst thing that they can do, because the message is really wrong. Because the message is founded on the issue of trust. And when a child sees, childs are not dumb, when they see that they are staying together but they are doing whatever with their life, they can see that it's very difficult to trust. The issue of trust is the main issue in infidelity once again. Now, about resentment and ambivalence toward the betrayed parent, some children resent the betrayed parent for requiring them to be their emotional caretaker, for underparenting due to preoccupation with infidelity drama, or for having been unable to prevent the infidelity in the first place. So here again is when children become very judgmental of their parents, and when they feel that, you know, they have to be able to prevent it. How come mom or dad could not do anything to prevent this? Because mom or dad are supposed to do everything in life, so they should have been doing that. Or they resent for them for having now to be taking care of them, as I told you before, or the underparenting. And this the underparenting is important too, because when they betray, in the scenario of dad was the betrayer, mom was the betrayed person, right? If dad continues this other relationship with somebody else and is emotionally absent, or is present but not that much present physically, because it's not the same as before, it's not living with the children as it was before, it's coming on weekends or coming occasionally, so it's not that much involved, and the one that stays with the children is the betrayed parent. The betrayed parent is going through their own issues, you know, and it doesn't have the emotional presence to be there with the children, to be able to deal with the issues. So the child is left alone. The acting out, as we discussed before, rather than confronting sad, angry, or confusing feelings directly, children may exhibit behavioral problems during childhood, sexual acting out during adolescence, and intimacy avoidance or sexual addiction during adult years. Issues of promiscuity may arise in an attempt to play out what a child perceived from his parents about the casualness of sex and the impermanence of love. And even if the child learn about this during childhood, being a teenager, that's when it starts to play out, because that's when they become involved with the opposite sex and they start the relationship, so everything starts to play out at that age. Children are generally not the focus when the decision is made to have an affair. What my clients and the hundreds of survey respondents confirm, however, is that when the betrayer and the betrayed are also parents, marital infidelity is never a private affair. And this is important because many parents think this is private. This is between your mom and me, or your dad and me. This does not involve you, but it does involve the children, always. Always, when the children know, right? Again, if the children don't know and nothing knows, we're not talking about those issues. So all of this is to say that the impact is significant in children, and the hundreds of stories that I have all point out to the same. Now, how do you resolve those issues? First of all, it depends on the age of the child. The child can be, as we saw, many are even found out when they were younger than 5. So when they were younger than 5, the main thing is to provide the safety so the child can feel protected. It's very important for the child to know that the parents are emotionally present through a crisis, and that's the huge problem, because parents are not emotionally present. Parents are trying to deal with their own issues. The betrayed or the betrayer, both are, in a crisis, so they cannot be emotionally present. But the child needs that emotional presence. So in dealing in clinical issues, dealing with the family, in the family dynamics of this, it's important to advise the parents to be emotionally present as much as possible to the children through these important stages. Now, when they are in the elementary school, children feel that children are very rigid in terms of making decisions. They are black and white. They are very concrete. They are not in the abstract stages yet, so concreteness makes them be judgmental, and they follow rules. Usually that's the stage of following rules, and following rules makes it very confusing when the rules are so obscure. So trying to set up a structure of the family where they're going to say something like, from now on, this is what we're going to do, and create a structure for the family or restructure for the family, so the children can feel, okay, now this is what's going to happen, this is what it's going to be, is very important. Now, during teenagers, the hormones and sexuality being present brings new issues, so it's very important to talk about intimacy, about developing relationships that are healthy for them, and that things may happen within a marriage, like what happened to mom and dad, and things happen, and we deal with those things. We don't run away from those things. We deal with those things. So it's important for adolescents, for teenagers, to realize that loving and romantic relationships are not just what we see on TV, but this is happening, and this is the way that we are dealing with this as role models for their own children. And as adults, then we bring the issues about forgiving, and I think that the healing process is about being able to grieve the ideal relationship of a parent, or how a parent should have been, mom or dad should have been, and they are not. So being able to grieve that idea, being able to grieve the family that they wanted to have and they don't have it, or they didn't have it. So, but realizing, accepting what it was, and being able to move ahead to form their own relationship in the way that they want it, or the value is important, instead of replaying or acting out things from the past, which is what happened in most of the cases where infidelity continue in the children, right? Children playing out infidelity. I think that acknowledging, thinking, doing some introspection about how these things within the family play an important role on the children while growing up, it's so important, because if not, they will be acted out in one way or another. Now, religion, different religions play an important role also. All of the religions talks about forgiveness, all of them. In Christianity, about Jesus forgiving, and he gave his life forgiving, so it's a very important role. In Judaism, forgiving is very important too. It's interesting that in Judaism they say that the person that do the wrong has to ask for forgiveness 3 times. The first one is the intention of asking for forgiveness, but the other person may not be ready. And there is a second one and a third one. But it's important to ask for forgiveness at least 3 times from your heart. And the other person, the person that forgives, needs to give themselves a chance to forgive, but if cannot forgive, it's okay. You can be accepting and continue going, but not holding into yourself. So that's interesting too. Buddhism is central also, forgiveness and love and kindness and understanding. It's important so you can have a full life, so you are not holding to the past. American Indians think that forgiveness is so important because it brings balance again. When you are holding into someone because of distrust or because of being angry, you are breaking the balance of wellness. So forgiving is important to recreate the balance in your life, and when you recreate the balance in your life, you create the balance in your community. So it's a whole community now working towards formulating the balance again of this particular couple or individual, so the whole community can keep going. So all of the religions in the world, Muslims too, talk about forgiveness. Everybody talks about forgiveness. In some religions, it's more like giving it to God for God to forgive, or in the other way, it will be God is with you to forgive, but it's always the presence of a higher power helping in the process of forgiving. So forgiving is very important for everybody. Again, we're going back to the beginning when we start talking about forgiving and what the meaning of forgiving is. Forgiving is not accepting. So for children of infidelity, it's very important as adults, and it's very hard to do it before adulthood because our mind is not prepared to developmentally to do this kind of forgiving work. So even as adults, it's important to forgive then the parent that we didn't have, or the relationship that we didn't have, or the family that we didn't have, and to create healthier relationships with the betrayed parent or the betrayer parent in the things that are positive for both of them. So if dad was the betrayer, well, but he has all of these qualities, I'm going to relate to dad, or I'm going to relate to mom with the positive qualities so I can have a good relationship with mom and dad for the best of them, not for the worst of them. Okay. Questions?
Yes, we actually have a lot of online questions. Let's do those first, and then we'll do the people that are live here. The first one is, early on you mentioned that we've almost normalized cheating as a society. Do you think media is at full fault because of this? Because cheating isn't new, so do you think media has a bigger role to play in this?
Well, I'm very involved in media, and I know what media does. Media needs to create numbers, because when you are in TV, when you have a programming in TV, or when you are doing a movie, you want to have a lot of viewers. If you have a lot of viewers, you create more resources. You can sell publicity, or you create more money. It's a question of money. So what is exploited is issues of sexuality and violence. And if you start switching channels, especially at night, you will see violence and sex in almost all of the channels. So it's incredible what is happening. So now with the issue of infidelity, I think it's exploited in media because people buy into that. So we are responsive to what media is actually selling us. So it's like a snowball that keeps going. Because if we wouldn't be paying that much attention to infidelity, so what if Angelina Jolie or whoever is cheating or not cheating, if we wouldn't be buying those magazines, then we would not have those magazines. So we can't blame media completely because we are the shoppers of media. So it's a question of society. And I personally think that society is changing as the roles of men and women in society are changing. We are craving for information. We are craving for new role models. We are craving for new things in our lives that can make us feel better in one way or another, in our relationships, in our families. And the issue of infidelity is something that is very scary. That's why I think that we are consuming so much media. That's why we are looking so much and see, oh, who cheated or what happened? Because we are trying to come to a conclusion. We all need to have someone to trust in our lives. We all need to have someone. And if that someone is not our partner, then where are we going to find that someone, right? In brothers or sisters, maybe. But we all want to have that intimacy with that special relationship in our lives. So as that is threatened, we are scared, and that's why it creates so much curiosity about what might happen, and that's why we consume more of that. I think all of those issues, when we see them more and more on TV, unfortunately they are wrongly exploited, and I can be very critical of media in doing that, but I cannot blame completely media. Same thing with violence. We see so much violence, and why do we see so much violence? But why is violence so much attractive to us that we watch those movies or we watch those series on TV, right? We are the consumers, and they are giving us what we want to consume. So we cannot blame media, but the responsibility of media should be much more on what they are showing us. One of the things about media that I think is it's very risky for our children is that they show in so many series or reality shows that having sex, it can be so casual and there are no consequences. I don't see in the reality shows, I don't watch them to tell you the truth, but from what I know, reality shows are not showing that this casual sex can bring AIDS or can bring other kind of sexual transmitted diseases. We don't see that. Media keeps showing sexual casual relationships as something okay, and we do know it's not okay. That we do know that it brings physical, medical, or emotional consequences. So media has an important role, but not everything.
Yeah, a question just came in just based on that. It says, so we are desensitized by the media, therefore making cheating and violence more acceptable. So kind of what you explained is we are kind of making it more acceptable, or at least the media is making it more acceptable.
Well, media is making it more acceptable because we see so much, and I hope that we develop in our children their critical thinking, which is very important, analytical, critical thinking, so they can see what is best for them and not be so much consuming what media is saying that is all right. And are we creating a more violent society? Maybe, right? We see more violence lately, but also violence has other causation, like the financial strain, and there are other issues that create violence too. So it's not just media, there are other variables. But if we can create consciousness about what are the consequences of our behavior, and if we learn that if we make a promise and we break that promise, it's going to have some harm on somebody else, I think that that's very important. Still, remember that even when media is showing that it's kind of normalized, 93% and about 90% of the children of infidelity said monogamy and the commitment are very important to me when I choose someone in my life. So media is maybe trying to I don't think the intention is to normalize it, but as a consequence of media, we may think that it's normalizing it, but it's actually not, because we're still thinking, hey, no, cheating may be outside there on TV, but not in my home. In my home, I want my wife. In my home, I want my husband.
The next question is, based on your survey results, would you say that at least 50% of those who have parents who have cheated will cheat themselves?
Yeah, that's what it shows. In the people that responded. Keep in mind that this is not a research, this is a survey. So these are the people that responded. There are a lot of people that did not respond. And I have to say, a lot of people sent me messages that were very nasty. Like saying, why are you doing this? And even much worse than that. I can't replicate what they were saying. So it created animosity in some people that they didn't want me to talk about this. So there's a lot of people that don't know what to talk about this. There's a lot of people that want to keep their eyes closed. And there's a lot of people that keep being hurt. And I'm not talking just now about infidelity per se, I'm talking about the children, okay? But if we keep our eyes closed, if we don't see the facts, that's the way that things continue to be happening, and we keep hurting our children without noticing or without intention, for sure, because nobody says, I'm going to have an affair so I can hurt my children. Of course, nobody says that. The least thing that you have in your mind when you are going to cheat is about your children. But if we are cheating ourselves thinking that nothing will happen, I think that we are hurting ourselves and everybody around us. That's the point.
The question is, in your professional opinion, do people cheat because they want revenge on their partner who cheated?
Well, now we're going into infidelity issues, which is not exactly the topic of this, which is about the children of parents who have been unfaithful. But in response to your question, usually people cheat not because of revenge, unless they're sick, trying to get back for something that happened. But usually infidelity happens because someone is going through a crisis or is depressed or feels not valued by someone, and they want to be valued, and somebody comes into the picture and says, oh, you are so great, you are the best of the world. So it creates some excitement, and this person needs that excitement and goes for it, thinking, well, I need this in my life, why not? Nobody will know about it, and I will feel better. And that's usually how the cheating starts. But there are different kinds of cheating. There's kind of this occasional cheating, or it could be a long-term cheating, or it could be sexual addictions. So there are many different scenarios on why the cheating may happen. But doing that for revenge, that's a kind of passive-aggressive maybe attitude. I don't know.
And then the last one just online is, are you going to follow up with any of the survey result, individuals that did the survey later on?
Yes, I continue. The survey is open. You can go into my website, www.ananogales.com, and you will find my survey over there. So you can click over there and answer to that. I have it in English and Spanish. So I'm translating the book into Spanish, for example, and then I'm going to have, once I get about 1,000 respondents, then I will be able to have the Spanish version of the survey, and I will be able to compare one with the other. And I hope that some university at some point does a research, more of statistical research on these issues with different variables, including different cultures, including definitions of forgiveness, for example. And then in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years there are so many things that we can do, to get more information. So yeah, there's a lot to be done, a lot to be. It creates a lot of curiosity, at least for me, how we behave after what we see in our parents.
Okay, let's take questions from anyone in here. Okay, come bring the mic over.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Allen. I have some questions of curiosity about how big is your sample size at this point?
I have double the amount, about 1,500. This was 866, now I have 1,500.
Okay, thank you. And on the effects on the children, did you find that any of the children hurt themselves through an attempted suicide or an injury to themselves?
I didn't ask that question. Nobody mentioned that to me, being suicidal as a consequence of that. I can imagine that it was. There are many ways of hurting themselves also. I remember now a child that dad was unfaithful, and she decided to take it on her, because this was the case. Dad was unfaithful, and when it was presented to them, because dad was leaving, right? That's when she found out. She was about 12, and mom trying to keep everything fine, and so everything would be fine for the children. She reacted and she said, my mom is fine with it, I'm not. So she took it in her hands, and she was very aggressive against dad, very aggressive against mom, and she did things that were kind of self-damaging, but not suicidal. That was a case that I remember, but very, very aggressive. But that would be something good to research in the future.
Did you find any of the children feel that they were the cause of the infidelity?
The children try to determine what is the cause with wrong assumptions, like the cause could be because your mom is not so.
Like in a divorce, sometimes the young children feel that they've caused the divorce.
Yeah, they feel that it depends on the stages. When they are 6 to 10 and they feel that the world is around them, they feel that they might have done something wrong to cause mom to find someone else, or to cause dad to find someone else because she didn't have good grades, or because he wasn't good in sports. So dad or mom was so upset that he looked for somebody else, they were not good enough, whatever that reason might be. Yeah, same thing like in divorce.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
My name is Valerie Lopez. I had 3 questions. The first question is, have you gone into more in-depth questions of the children of the result of the relationship, the extramarital relationship? So those children, and just what are some of the trends that you see in those children? Because sometimes they're married, they go and they live, like we were talking about, that child had to go live with his family. But then what about that child that's just kind of in limbo and doesn't maybe go anywhere and is a result of this relationship?
Yeah. No, I didn't do a research on children that were born of extramarital affairs. No, that was not the intention of this research. And I can imagine that it's very, very difficult for them to be the result of an affair. But I didn't do the research on them.
Okay.
No, that wasn't the purpose of this.
Okay. And then my other question is that did any of whoever, like the people you're speaking to, just a marriage of that result? So they leave the mom and then marry the person who they had that extramarital affair with, and just kind of some of the concerns. And I know they're obviously negative concerns, but I know you've spoken to a lot of people and just kind of, that other woman per se is now married to dad.
And then dad says, you have to love her. She's your stepmother and now you have to love her. That's an impossible mission in most of the cases, because they resent this woman, right, that came to steal dad from the family, and now I have to love her. It's almost impossible to ask that. So the best way to deal with the situation will be to leave time go by so the child can accept first that this happened and then include this other person into their lives. Some parents feel that they have to love this person because I love her so much and then my children have to love her again, and it's suffocating for the children. It's impossible for them to accept. And again, once they accept it, it's not really accepting it, it's forcing them to accept, and it creates more resentment and it's more and more difficult. So it's very, very, very difficult to do that. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. I'm saying to any parents to ask their children to accept now she's going to be, now it's okay because I'm going to marry her or I'm going to marry him. For children, it's very, very, very difficult.
And then my last question is just, did you find that there was an average amount of children within that household? Because I have an assumption that maybe if, say for example, if a woman has maybe 5 children, you're so busy, you're too busy to go have an extramarital affair. So maybe there's a smaller on average. If you have 2 children, maybe it just like, you have more time on your hands for some reason. But did you find there was an average amount of children in that family at all?
I didn't ask for that.
No? Okay.
That would be a good question to add to the survey. To a survey on what is the percentage of parents who cheat, of men or women who cheat according to the number of children that they have, right? Yeah. Maybe you have 10 children, it would be good to have enough. But I have studied the children, right? No, not the parents per se. But there the expectations that children will react in one way, when actually we have to look into our children and see what is it that they need, not what we expect. And that's so important for parents to listen to their children so they can vent, they can talk about what's going on, they can talk about being angry, they can talk about being shameful, they can talk about being confused, so they can ask questions. I think that that's very important for the parents to do with the children, instead of parents to think, oh, now everything is going to be all right because I'm going to marry her or I'm going to go marry him, and that's fine. This is no. Doesn't work that way.
I had another question. I lived in Mexico for 17 years, and I found the mores and the values slightly different among the small amount of Mexican people that we're associated with. And it sounds like you're dealing with the Americanization, the Americanizing of foreign people to our standards here. Are they different in Mexico?
Well, this survey was not for Mexicans, and was not for Latin Americans. It's a general one. Now, I'm doing the research in Spanish, so we will go to Latin America and we'll be able to compare the differences. So maybe in a year I can come back and give a presentation of the difference between the two of them. And I think the difference is not slight. They are huge because when there is a lot of machismo, when there is a lot of chauvinistic behavior, then you will see more of that trend. And again, it will probably be more normalized, but in my experience, even when it's more normalized, the reactions continue to be the same and things continue to be happening in the same way. A lot of Latino men feel that they are very loyal to their wives and to their families, but infidelity is something else. So it's a huge distinction between infidelity and loyalty. They are loyal to the families, they will never leave the family, that's a loyal man, but having affairs is something else. So there's a separation there.
You know,
So
I began to thinking about our European friends, and that things are slightly different with the male, and I don't know about the females.
that too, no, females are more flexible.
So
In European countries is more.
It really gets my mind was getting into a cultural framework.
And then you go to Asian Americans, and then it's different too. And then you go into Middle Easterns, it's different too. So culture is an important factor too.
Thank you.
So we can go to multicultural studies about infidelity.
Perfect. Well, Dr. Nogales, thank you so much for coming. If you'd like to get a hold of Dr. Nogales, you could reach her. The information's online, drnogales.com. You can also get her book on Amazon. And again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.